everybody, it's Laura, and welcome to the class of 74. Now, we just left Cynthia on a high note after talking to Señora Cardova and getting the real story about what was going on Saturday night. So, that was the first time we had an end of a story that was not a cliffhanger. So guess what? This episode will be a cliffhanger. Promise. So get ready to go somewhere else for a while, and let's go see the class of 74. Hang on. Episode 18. Teenage Angst and Drama. Cynthia felt so much better after talking with Señora Cardova because she got back the energetic and charismatic new teacher she had been so impressed with last week. It had been an awful feeling Saturday night to lose the Señora to what she had believed was unforgivable behavior, and then more losses to follow. Teddy had already fallen from the pedestal Cynthia used to have him on, but Saturday he sank to worse than Derek Berger in the Boston Whalers status. She felt confused, concerned, and sad about Betsy Satterfield. She had known her for a long time, and Cynthia had truly admired her, though she had been a little too much of a straight arrow. Something must have happened this summer that produced the girl she saw on Saturday night. And then, Katie Langston. When she had met her that first day, she had thought, wow, this girl's going to rule. And she had wanted so much to know her. But after Saturday, she was almost regretting knowing her at all. So that had been, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 people she had admired who had turned into nightmares in the space of a couple hours on Saturday. That had been pretty hard going for Cynthia. But the Señora had not disappointed her after all. Just the opposite. Cynthia wanted to be like her. She was also dying to get a look at the cool husband. Driver's ed? That seemed like as good an excuse as any to snoop around in D-Wing. She walked out the fire door of B-Wing again and headed down and around to the end of A-Wing. What was she going to do when the weather turned cold and awful? Wear her coat all day? Just to change classes? She arrived in chemistry, starving, and it was their lab day, which meant class was an hour and 15 minutes long, and she didn't even have a lifesaver. Cynthia sat down next to her lab partner, Peter Cully, who was busy trying to write an essay or something, so after exchanging hellos, she didn't try to talk to him. Betsy walked in and took a seat in the front row without even looking at Cynthia. Betsy did have a great profile, Cynthia thought. She had those symmetrical features that endlessly pleased people. High cheekbones, well-defined jaw and jawline, and a celestial, slightly upturned nose. Even in Betsy's worst moments, like on Saturday night, drunk, crying, smeared makeup, hair sticking out in every direction, Betsy was far more attractive than most girls could ever dream of being. She watched as Betsy maneuvered in her seat to cross her legs under her miniskirt. From this angle, Cynthia knew it was not her imagination. Betsy had lost a ton of weight this summer. The thing about cheerleaders was you spent a lot of time on game days looking at their legs. And what Cynthia felt right now was a chill when she saw how much thinner Betsy's legs really were. How could that amount of weight loss happen so fast? Compared to Cynthia's, Betsy's legs looked like sticks. Her blouse was long sleeved, so Cynthia couldn't see her arms. Betsy's chest had never been big, but now she was practically flat. Did Teddy find that attractive? Flat-chested girls? Oh, who cared? She didn't. That was that one nagging, unanswered question. Was Betsy dating Teddy now? And how had that come about? She couldn't remember what it was Betsy had first asked Cynthia about Katie last week. Oh, right. Betsy had asked her if she knew whether Katie was going to try out for cheerleading or not. The thought now made Cynthia want to laugh. Although Katie was good-looking enough to be a cheerleader, Cynthia had gained the distinct impression that unless the squad dropped everything and went to Katie's house and told her she had been named to the squad, and then everyone agreed to stay with Katie day and night until she was comfortable with the routine, she wouldn't be interested in cheerleading. Was Cynthia being unfair? Yes. But she still hadn't gotten over Katie's expectations about paying attention to her on Saturday night. She still hadn't gotten over Katie arriving out of the blue on Saturday morning and somehow making Cynthia feel like it was her responsibility that Katie had a place to be that day and something to do. And then she turned around and got mad at Cynthia because she hadn't been front and center of Cynthia's attention while she was on a date with Clay. Stuck her with Mimi, isn't that what Katie had said last night? That probably bugged Cynthia more than anything else she said, because she had been so pleasantly surprised at how delightful Mimi had been and how well she had fit in with the group on Saturday when she didn't know Clay or his brother Patrick or Cheryl either. Cynthia was pretty sure Katie was as spoiled as Mimi, but in a different way. Mimi had been spoiled by her parents giving her everything under the sun, but they had not spoiled her with attention. So Mimi had always just barged in and done as she pleased because she never expected anyone to pay attention to her anyway. Whereas Katie didn't barge in. Katie didn't receive the kind of attention she wanted. She threw a tantrum. She needed to talk to her mother about Katie, see what she thought. And boy, oh boy, if Katie got upset with Cynthia, Annabelle's flightiness was going to flip her out completely, because if there was one thing every friend of Annabelle's knew they had to accept, it was the fact Annabelle's attention did not linger long, because Annabelle was always running on to the next thing, the next happening, the next new experience. The Led Zeppelin concert last week was a perfect example. Kiki Donnelly from the club had always been like that too, running from one razzle-dazzle event to another. And she was Annabelle's usual companion to go anywhere that had lights, action, and people. Who else but Kiki would want to go to the Miss America pageant with her father? Annabelle would, because it meant dressing up to the nines, live TV cameras, the press, and lots of music. It was a happening. The interests Annabelle shared with Cynthia were pretty much the same interests their parents shared: swimming, tennis, and skiing, and drinking and smoking. So while Cynthia and Kiki had always been friends because they had Annabelle in common, Cynthia and Kiki rarely did anything together on their own, except if Annabelle couldn't do something, and whatever it was appealed to Cynthia. Like last year, when Annabelle got strep throat. So Cynthia went into New York with Kiki and the Donnellys to be part of the audience at the Johnny Carson show in Studio 6B in Rockefeller Center, and then stayed overnight at the Hilton Hotel. That was all well and fine. Looking at Betsy, she just couldn't help wondering what was going on with her. Mr. Flugler passed out black lab aprons and clear, soft plastic safety goggles for them to put on. Cynthia didn't want to wear the goggles because the elastic strap was going to make her hair look weird, but everybody else was putting them on, so she did too. Looking around at all the kids through her goggles as they gathered around Mr. Flugler, Cynthia felt like she was in line for the chairlift at Stratton Mountain. Someone tapped her on the shoulder. It was Betsy, with her pink yarn sticking out her goggles like a turning signal. "My lab partner's not here. Mr. Flugler said I have to work with you guys." "Okay," Cynthia said. "You know Peter, don't you?" Betsy and Peter exchanged highs. Mr. Flugler began by showing them the locations of fire extinguishers. Then he led them into the lab area, distinguished by high black counters and stools. There was also a massive ventilation hood at one end, which reminded Cynthia of where they flipped burgers at the club. She was starving. Mr. Flugler showed them equipment. Test tube holder, test tube tongs, beaker, pipette, dropper, glass stirring rod, graduated cylinder. Someone murmured, "Master cylinder, Felix the cat." Erlenmeyer flask, mortar and pestle, triple beam balance, which to Cynthia looked like a scale. She raised her hand to ask why wasn't it called a scale. "There's a distinct difference in function between a scale and a balance," Mr. Flugler said. "A scale measures the force of gravity on a particular object or mass, while a balance uses a known mass, such as these calibrated weights, which you slide over until the balance is equal." "Why wouldn't you just weigh it on a scale instead of having to go through all that stuff?" Cynthia asked. "Because you might be on the moon, Cynthia, where the gravity's different and scales don't work." "Cynthia was born on the moon," Betsy announced to the class. Everybody laughed. "Given the lesser gravity on the moon," Mr. Flugler continued, "you would need a balance to measure something. But wouldn't the weights on the balance be messed up too by the different gravity?" she asked. "No, because a balance compares one mass with another mass, and gravity is not part of the equation." "Betsy lost a lot of mass this summer," Cynthia announced to the class. "So you better remember to bring a balance when you visit." Everybody laughed at that, too. After class, Cynthia hurried to catch up with her in the hall. "I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry. But after you made that crack about the moon, it just came out." Betsy was looking at her mouth, which was weird. She brought her eyes up. "You noticed that I lost weight?" Cynthia nodded. "I think maybe a little too much." Her eyes flared. "Did I ask your opinion?" "Betsy, we used to be friends," Cynthia said. "I don't understand what's happening." "You're out of control, Cynthia." Cynthia's mouth fell open. "I'm out of control?" "Yes, you're out of control. You shouldn't be hanging out with that girl from California. She's screwing you up." "What are you talking about? I barely know her." "I warned you," Betsy said, backing away. "Wait a minute." Cynthia went over to her, lowering her voice. "You screwed her up with that herb saint on Saturday." "I didn't force her to drink it. She wanted it." Her eyes moved to somewhere behind Cynthia. "That wasn't all she wanted." "What's that supposed to mean? What did she want?" Betsy pressed her mouth into a line. Then she slowly shook her head. "You'll have to ask her," she said, backing away. "Not that she's going to tell you." "What happened?" Cynthia wondered for the 100th time. It couldn't have been longer than 30 minutes between the time Katie left the car and when Gertie Lou ran to the van. And what was wrong with Betsy? She was like one of the aliens on The Invaders now. So little did she resemble the Betsy she used to know at Dean Junior High. Finally, she could get lunch. Cynthia went out the end of A Wing, crossed the student parking lot, and was about to head up the path up past the senior commons, but thought, why not cruise through D-Wing to see if she could get a peek at Mr. Creighton Smith? When Cynthia went through the doors, she heard some kind of radio. CQ, 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 a man's voice said. Brake for priority traffic. CQ, CQ. This is Whiskey, Alpha, 2, Juliet, Zulu, X-ray, portable, operating from near Attica Prison, New York. Attica, Cynthia thought, the prison uprising? She moved towards the sound, advancing to a set of double doors that opened onto a cavernous space. This must be automotive mechanics in the metal shop, but across the room, against the wall, a student was sitting on a stool in front of radio equipment. Although there was a speaker on, he was wearing headphones and was madly flipping through some kind of notebook. The radio came alive again. I am a reporter on site and require immediate relay to a newspaper office in New York City. Any station able to place a telephone call, please respond. This is WA2JZX portable standing by. Mr. C, the boy cried. Do we respond? Let's wait 1 minute to see if any other station picks him up, a man said, striding over to close the doors to the hall. He looked at Cynthia. We may need your help. Are you game? Sure, she said, going in. He closed the doors behind her. Note the time in the log, George. 12:15. And did you catch his call sign? The boy said, Don't worry, he'll say it again. Do you have hours ready? Yes, sir. Please write down as much of what you hear as you can, he said to Cynthia, handing her a clipboard with a pen chained to it. There was a bunch of paper in it. Do the best you can. We can always ask him to repeat. His sleeves were rolled up and his tie was loose. Now he took it off and flung it over a bookcase. CQ, CQ, CQ. Brake for priority traffic. The radio started again. This is Whiskey Alpha. Mr. C pointed to George. George gripped the microphone and said, CQ, CQ, CQ. This is Club Station, Whiskey Alpha 1, Bravo, Hotel Sierra, WA1, BHS, calling CQ and standing by. Over. Thank God, the man said over the radio. This is WA2JZX portable, outside Attica Prison. I do not have a telephone. Can you call my newspaper and relay a message? Tell him there is a phone on the premises, but it will take at least a couple of minutes to reach it, the teacher said. George told the man this, and Cynthia was already writing like crazy. Thank you, the voice over the radio said. Request immediate call to New York Dispatch City Desk at 212-555-9811. Please relay message exactly as given. Ready? Mr. C told George to check the phone number and waved Cynthia closer. George held out the microphone. She got up to read the telephone number and scrambled back to her stool to finish writing. This is WA2JZX portable outside Attica Prison, Attica, New York. He needs to slow down, Cynthia pleaded. Brake, George said. QRS. You're too fast for us. Roger, I'll slow it down. He did slow down. The only problem was going to be who the heck could read Cynthia's scribble-scrabble. He delivered his message. Tell him to repeat for the relay, Mr. C said. George did as he was told. The reporter went through the message again. Cynthia was sweating and her hand was cramping, but she hung in there. You're going to have to read it back to him, Mr. C said to Cynthia. She nodded, still writing. Tell him we copy, Mr. C said to George, and we'll read it back. He did that and then held the microphone to Cynthia. She stammered her way through everything she had written. Roger that, the man said, WA1BHS. Perfect. Can you phone Patch now? George explained the phone was in a nearby location. Stand by for about 5 minutes. Tell him to maintain listening watch, Mr. C said. Okay, he said, pointing to Cynthia. Let's go. She kept on his heels as he led her down the hall, out the door, across the walk, past the senior commons, and up the stairs to the front office. We picked up an emergency call from a reporter over the ham radio, he said to Mrs. Marsh. We promised to call his paper in New York City. Everyone in the area turned around to watch. Cynthia was still touching up her notes on the clipboard. The principal, Dr. Mullen, was approaching. Mr. C explained again, for his benefit, what was going on, and then the principal told Mrs. March to put the call through. He remained standing there, watching. The crowd was gathering. Suzanne Slater emerged from the back office with Dr. Eagleton. Cynthia held out the phone number for Mrs. Marsh to see. She placed the call and handed the phone to Mr. C. Yes, City Desk, this is Creighton Smith of Brighton High School in Brighton, Connecticut. Our ham radio club picked up an emergency call from one of your reporters, Alexander Carter, who is outside Attica Prison. He requested we patch in a message to you. He repeated who he was and handed the phone to Cynthia. She took a breath and commanded her best student council voice to read, From Alexander Carter, Field Correspondent, New York Dispatch, September 13th, 1971, 12:05 p.m. At 9:46 this morning, New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller commenced a military-style assault to end the 4-day Attica prison surrection. 2 hours and 18 minutes later, there are 37 men confirmed dead, 9 of whom were hostages. Cell blocks B and C are still held by prisoners. Situation critical. End message. Over. The little crowd in the office broke out in excited whispers. The City Desk editor read the message back to Cynthia. Then Cynthia handed the phone to Mr. C, who told her, Quick, back to George. He is to tell the reporter his message was relayed to and acknowledged by the New York Dispatch. Tell him at 12:21. Cynthia raced out past people, flying down the stairs, and back to the classroom in D-Wing. She told George the message had been delivered. Mr. C arrived a few minutes later, beaming, announcing they had just successfully delivered breaking news from a media blackout zone. The newspaper knew that state and local police, FBI, and members of the National Guard had stormed the prison with tear gas, but this was the first report of any casualties. 9 hostages killed, Cynthia said. They're poor families. They've been waiting for 4 days, and now... Mr. Smith nodded solemnly. An unfolding tragedy, to be sure. But George, my man, he said, clapping him on the back, you have completed your first emergency patch call. Congratulations. We need to write this up in the log. He looked at Cynthia. What is your name? Thank you, by the way. I hope you're going to join our club. We don't have any girls. Women's lib and all that. Be a groundbreaker. He flashed a grin. Come on, why not? Cynthia thought Mr. Smith was a little hyper. It was exciting, Cynthia said. My neighbor has a ham radio, and I remember once he called somebody to tell them their son was alive after an earthquake. He was in the Peace Corps somewhere. That's where amateur operators are invaluable, Mr. Smith said. When phone lines are down and communication is otherwise impossible. You're going to have to learn Morse code, George warned her. Only now did she notice the boy was absolutely soaked perspiration to the point where she could see his nipples through his white dress shirt, the kind Clark wore. No pocket protector, though. No, wait. She looked too fast. He had a pocket protector on the back pocket of his corduroys, though it seemed to have come too late because there was an old blue ink stain on the pocket, probably from a cartridge pen. Cynthia guessed the Brighton Ham Radio Club was not a mainstream social organization. Mr. C was quite a character, dashing around from here to there, never sitting still. She never would have paired him with Señora Cardova because he looked like Wally Cox on Hollywood Squares. Not quite the same glasses, but pretty close. The idea of him fooling around with Señora Cardova flummoxed Cynthia. She stuck around until the log was filled out. Station advisor and licensee, Creighton J. Smith. Station operator, George P. Blanda. Scribe and delivery operator, Cynthia Schuyler. With a meeting schedule for the Brighton Ham Radio Club in hand, Cynthia headed for the cafeteria to finally get something to eat. Cynthia bought an egg salad sandwich and a carton of chocolate milk and walked out to the smoking area and went up to the semi-wooded area and chose a rock to sit on to inhale her food. It was pretty good. Can't mess up egg salad. Chocolate milk's always good. She looked around to see who she knew. A group of kids were standing at the trees bordering the gym. They looked a little hippie-ish. Two of them had been very clean cut only a couple of months ago. There was a little group of girls standing near the library who were talking a mile a minute and laughing and smoking. She didn't know them. She wondered if she and Annabelle looked like that from afar. "Hey," a friendly voice called. It was Dee Dee with some boy. Dee Dee was saying something to him, laughing. Of course she was laughing. She was always laughing, this girl. "This is my famous friend Henry," she said. "The magic elixir man?" Cynthia asked. "Depends if you liked it," he said with a grin. He had shaggy hair and his shoulders were scrunched as if he didn't want anyone to see him, which was kind of odd since he was standing there out in the open. "Have a rock, guys," Cynthia offered. "Dee Dee, I hate to ask, but..." "Yes and yes," Dee Dee said, taking out a pack of Marlboros. "That strange boy called me for a ride yesterday, and he gave me $5, so I got a couple packs." "Which strange guy?" Henry wanted to know. "You know, the one with all the names." "You mean my guy?" Cynthia asked. "Not Fred? Blonde hair with the angel face?" "Yeah, that guy." Cynthia lit a cigarette and took a deep drag before asking, "Where was he?" "He was at a house near the beach in Sachem. Big house, I mean, really big." Phil O'Brien was walking out of the building. His head kicked back when he saw Cynthia. Walking over, he said, "Man, does that look good," staring at Cynthia's cigarette. "Do you want one?" Dee Dee asked him. "No," Cynthia cried, jumping off her rock. "Philip O'Brien is on the soccer team, and he doesn't smoke." "Oh, right," Phil said, rolling his eyes. "That Philip O'Brien." His eyes went to Dee Dee. "I've seen you around. You drive a navy blue Ford Fairlane 550. "Whenever I can steal it from my mother, I do," Dee Dee laughed. Cynthia introduced everybody. "So, Cynthia," Phil said, "Mrs. Grenville's telling everybody up at guidance you broke a story for the New York Times." "Not quite," she laughed. She told them what happened. "Who's Mr. C?" Phil asked when she was through. "Creighton Smith," Dee Dee said. "I had him for driver's ed." "I have him for physics," Henry said. "I know," Dee Dee laughed to Cynthia. "Henry doesn't look it, but he's really, really smart." "Oh, that's me," Henry mused, jamming his hands in his pockets. "It is," Dee Dee said. "At least until you kill all your brain cells with that hooch." "Mad scientist Creighton Smith is married to Miss Ooh La La in the Foreign Languages Department," Henry announced. As an aside to Phil, he said, "Take her class, and you'll never be short of anything to look at. Trust me." "Sexist pig," Dee Dee said, jabbing him with her elbow. Cynthia saw a bunch of men moving across the slope near the front of the school. "What's going on?" she asked, standing up. She walked a bit to see better. A group of men were standing between the front doors of the school and the gymnasium. School custodians in their uniforms, police officers in their uniforms, the principal, and some other men in tie and jackets. One of the men was giving directions to the rest, and men started leaving the group in pairs, spreading out across the front of the school. Cynthia walked up there, curious. What were they doing? When the group was in pairs, spaced evenly across the faculty parking lot, at the sound of a whistle, the line of men started moving towards the woods. "What are they looking for?" Dee Dee said, coming up behind her. "I bet they're looking for drugs," Henry said. "I heard there was a ton of LSD coming in." "How would you know that?" Dee Dee said. "Oh," he shrugged. "I hope they're not looking for a child," Cynthia said, "like that little girl they found in New Haven." "It looks like the search they did at Bennett's Beach," Dee Dee said, "when that lady's diamond fell out of her ring." Cynthia spotted Detective Fiducia coming out of the front of the school. "You need to get back," he was saying to students. "Come on," a senior boy said loudly. "If you tell us what you're looking for, maybe we can help." Dr. Mullen suddenly brushed past Cynthia and walked over to stand next to Detective Fiducia. "Everyone, calm down," he said, "and get inside." Ding, 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 sounded the loudspeaker under the aluminum canopy. "All students are to remain inside the school," Dr. Eagleton's voice said. "Anyone in the parking lot, the smoking area, or on the athletic fields is to come inside immediately. Again, all students are to stay in the school until further notice." Cynthia kept moving towards Detective Fiducia. "A student's missing," she heard someone say. And then there was a bunch of whispering. Detective Fiducia spotted her, and she knew he couldn't remember who she was. She made a beeline for him. To jog his memory, she asked him if they were looking for steroids in the woods. "Oh, hi, how you doing?" the detective said. "No, you need to get inside until the search is over." "Yes," Dr. Mullen suddenly bellowed at the kids. "The police are looking for a student. Now get inside." Cynthia felt a sickly dread starting to spread through her chest. She rushed over to Detective Fiducia and pulled his arm so she could whisper in his ear, "Are you looking for Clay Seaton?" He nodded. "He never came home yesterday after football practice. We think he's still here somewhere." "I told you we're going to have a cliffhanger on this one? Oh, dear. Where is Clay? Well, you're just going to have to come back next week to find out what the heck happened. I hope you liked it. I had fun. I always have fun. Please remember, you're always welcome to rate and comment on any episode wherever you get your podcast. I want you to know that a lot of people care for you, and you care for a lot of people, and that love still rules the world, even though it doesn't seem like it right now. And I want you to have a nice week. And I want you to remember that we don't drink and drive anymore. Ever. But we do have fun. And you're allowed. Be well. And thanks for listening.